Well, another ministerial resignation today. The Minister for Wales and the former government whip Nigel Adams told Theresa May that she risks simultaneously failing to deliver the Brexit, which he said the people voted for, and preventing the calamity of a Corbyn government. In her nearly 3 years as Prime Minister, Mrs May has faced 29 ministerial resignations. That's a record, and it's proving a challenge to replace some of them. Should we care? Joining me now is Gavin Freeguard, Programme Director at the Institute of Government. I mean, it is true, isn't it? The rate of attrition of ministers is absolutely record-breaking.
Yes, I mean, 29 since she became Prime Minister, more than Thatcher saw.
That's including today's, is it?
Yeah, that's including today's. 28 of those since the general election. 21 of those have been over policy or political disagreements. That's more than under Thatcher, Blair and Brown put together. And of course, 19 of those have been over Brexit. So we currently have 7 unfilled ministerial vacancies.
Does that matter?
Yes. I mean, we tend to focus on the sort of high politics and the high drama of the big beasts departing cabinet, but junior ministerial roles also being unfilled really matters. They tend to be the people who pilot bills through Parliament and get all of the parliamentary business done. They're the ones who get things done in their departments. If you think of big policies over the last 10, 15 years, the London Challenge, which improved school standards in London, was down to a junior minister, Stephen Twigg. Steve Webb, the pensions minister under the coalition. Lynn Featherstone on equal marriage.
So what's happening? This legislation is just not being processed or brought forward? Well,
it's not just about legislation, but we are seeing that the government has abandoned a lot of the plans it had for legislation that we saw in the Tory manifesto back in 2017.
I mean, big issue for many people is no minister for the disabled.
Yes, and it's been 3 weeks since Sarah Newton resigned and still hasn't been replaced. And I think you can see from the reaction from disabled charities just how much that means to them. They don't know who they're dealing with at the moment. If you talk to civil servants when ministers move on, they'll be waiting for direction. They'll be waiting for a new minister. They'll have a new style, new priorities that they need to adapt to. And without that political direction, it's unclear what they should be doing.
I mean, some people would think that, you know, civil servants just get on with it and take the politics out of it, and that would be a good thing.
But they do need to do that with direction from ministers, and they're there to advise and they're there to implement. But again, different ministers will have different priorities, different things they want to focus on, and they need some clarity on what it is they're supposed to be doing.
We have, though, had quite a significant increase in the number of ministers in recent years, haven't we? And we've also had the parallel increase of political appointees, so-called special advisors.
That's right. So there are sort of more ministers. It might be that government can do without a few of them, given the increase. I think we're also in the position where you could argue usually government is trying to get on with lots of other things and junior ministers therefore really matter. But with most of the bandwidth of government going on Brexit, I think there is an open question as to how much of a difference it will make at this time compared to others.
Well, you mentioned Brexit, and of course that has been the driver behind a lot of these resignations. But isn't what we're really seeing politics sort of red in tooth and claw, in the sense that we've got Mrs May's losing ministers because of a real argument within the Tory party about what to do about Brexit, and that's actually one of the reasons inhibiting her from appointing new ministers.
Quite, and you see how the Conservative Party and also the Labour Party have sort of been ripped apart by the different Brexit positions. We're seeing lots of conventions appended. We're seeing ministers voting against the government. We're seeing ministers abstaining when they've been told to whip in a particular direction. It's, you know, I think we're seeing a sort of loss of control over Parliament, government and cabinet that perhaps we're not used to seeing.
Have you got any answers? I mean, in the present circumstance, with these vacancies, with these loss of ministers, what could be done?
Well, I think it's about those ministers that are there sort of picking up some of the responsibilities, again, being clear what it is that they're trying to do, and sort of focusing on what really matters. And clearly, at the moment, for a lot of departments, that is going to be Brexit. We know that a lot of civil servants have been scrambled onto working on no-deal planning. And again, I think it's just that sort of ruthless prioritisation of what it is government's trying to do.
Because if a government can't command a majority, then it's not going to get a lot of this legislation through anyway. So, for example, we've got Brexit-related bills like the trade bill, which have just apparently disappeared into the ether.
And I think we're still waiting to see 5 of the bills needed to implement Brexit still need to make their way through Parliament. Of course, minority governments are much more prone to defeat, and we can see the effort that's gone into trying to avoid that from the Conservatives. Now,
what about Brexit? What about the work which needs to be done by Parliament if we ever reached an agreement that had been passed by Parliament? What's your estimate of how long it would take?
Well, I suppose that's a question for the government whips, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got the sort of deadline of the 12th of April, which everybody's
We've got this new deadline, apparently, the 22nd of May.
The 22nd of May. So those are the sort of key dates that need to be done. And obviously, MPs themselves are sort of taking control of the parliamentary agenda again. So I think it sort of remains to be seen exactly how quickly things
But
will
we
move.
could actually technically leave, couldn't we, without any of this actually being through Parliament. Under international law, we could leave and then do the tidying up afterwards.
Well, a no-deal Brexit would sort of take quite a lot of preparation, and even though government has started no-deal planning in recent weeks and months, and we've had sort of Operation Yellowhammer and various other exotically named projects to try to prepare for that, the government still wouldn't be ready.
And I just wonder what your assessment is. And we had Peter Lilly, Lord Lilly there, basically saying the civil service were the establishment, that they were pursuing their own agenda, that they weren't serving the public. What would you say to those sort of charges?
Well, the civil service is there to serve the government of the day. We've seen Brexiteer ministers such as David Jones going on the record commending their professionalism as they face what he called the biggest peacetime challenge the civil service has ever faced. So the civil service are there to get on with the job. I think they just need the political direction and the clarity about what sort of Brexit we're heading for in order to be able to do it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.